Hello and welcome to Planet Smasher HQ. My name's Mike, the designer of Gaslands, A Billion Suns, and Hobgoblin Brutal Fantasy Battles. Last year, as part of the One Box Wargame challenge, I set about to make an entirely new miniatures game in just 48 hours. I thought it would be fun to video the whole process of making the game, making the components, playtesting it, building the models, taking the photographs. So in this video, I want to show you the whole process, from the conception of the game, through the development, into the production of a zine rulebook. I hope this behind the scenes view is interesting, so strap on in and let's design a new miniatures game. Alright, let's time travel back to September. Hello and welcome to Planet Smasher HQ. As I stand here today, it's the 25th of September. There are just 5 days left before the One Box Wargame challenge closes, and I haven't even started my entry. Let's see if I can get this finished in 48 hours. A couple of months ago, Malev launched an incredible design challenge, which we've been hosting over on the Rule of Carnage Discord. His challenge was to come up with a miniature wargame that used only a single box of miniatures. And it's just been an amazing thing. I've been so excited to see all of the wonderful people come into the Rule of Carnage Discord and throw their game design ideas in, and we've had like well over 100 entries. Now, of course, I want to enter this competition. Rapidly designing miniature war games that use a small number of models is my passion, and it's kind of what I do when I'm sleeping. So I definitely want to enter this, but I have been really focused over the last couple of months on a bigger project. I got to a particular milestone on that project yesterday, and so I now have a bit of psychic space clear to work on my entry to the One Box Wargame Challenge. But there's not very long left. It's the 25th of September. The competition closes on the 30th, or maybe it's the 1st. But I'm going to see if I can't gather my thoughts, gather my equipment, and get something done in 48 hours. I have a reasonable idea about what it is that I want to make. The box that I've chosen is this one, the Frigates and Brigs Flotilla box from Black Seas. What's good about this is it comes with a pair of larger ships and 4 smaller ships, so I can break that into 2 small kind of pirate forces. I've got an idea for the background. I have wanted to do a sort of post-apocalyptic Gaslands Pirates sort of game for a long time. I had the beginnings of something written up during lockdown, but I never spent the time to develop it any further. So I've got, at the very least, I've got a component, a wind gauge at the heart of the design, which is enough to be getting on with. I want to get these models out of the box, have a look at them and try and post-apocalypse them up, maybe get some armour plates and stuff on them. And then I need to basically jot down the rules, give them a playtest, and then write them up into a little rulebook. Alright, I'm giving myself 48 hours for this challenge. Let's see if I can come up with rad pirates of the toxic seas in just 2 days. Let's get to it. It all starts with this box of miniatures. I'm definitely going to need some Gaslands templates. The other essential element is this funky wind gauge that I came up with a little while ago. It's just circles of card stuck together with a banana clip. I'm pretty sure I'm going to use a deck of cards for this game. Not sure why, just feels right. Probably some D6. And I have a bunch of notes and some other notes and some more notes. I'm not sure how any of this works yet. The first thing to do is to get down to these miniatures. Alright, let's see what we've got. Thanks, Alexandra. These are the sprues. Ooh. It is thinnish card. Oh man, these are really nice, these models. I probably won't use these though. Won't be needing those. I might use these pirate flags though. Yeah, there's lots of pirate flags. You get lots of goodies in this. Look at these. Plastic rigging. Wow, that's a load of cool stuff. Wait a minute, there's something else in here. Oh, dude. That's a reel of thread, I guess, for doing the rigging. Okay, so I'm going to start building these, but I need to find some conversion bits. Let's get some conversion bits. If you have watched my other video on my Gaslands conversion bits, then you will know where all of this stuff comes from. I am going to be looking for little bits of armor plating, the smallest I can find, because obviously these are a smaller scale, and there are some tiny weapons that I might use as well. Definitely going to need a bunch of plastic card. In this case, the thinner the better. Now these are kind of obviously ridiculous, but that might just work. Sticking a giant interceptor engine in the middle of it. Yeah, that's quite tempting. Yeah, as much as I like the idea of that, I think that might end up being too ridiculous. Alright, I have a pretty exciting selection of bits and bobs there. I'm going to keep the rest of it close by in case I need more, but that is a good start. I think I'll build the sides first, leaving the tops for me to customize, then slot the tops in. Ah, an idea has just occurred to me. So I'm going to go and dig a box out of my shed. See you in a bit. Okay, this is my bits box of Adeptus Titanicus terrain, and it occurs to me that this stuff, particularly like the barrels, could be potentially a really nice fit. They're going to be too big, but some of it could be really... Oh, wait a minute. An oil rig in the desert being fought over by pirate ships, swimming around it like sharks. Yes, those would definitely be the right size. That's going to look cool. Okay, so I now know how I'm going to build the terrain. I wonder what the rest of this oil rig will be. I wonder how big it will be. Do you know what? It probably gets built out of sprue. I wonder if I can build the most of it out of this sprue. Different layers of sprue held together. Yes, we get the most out of this Black Seas box by using the sprues as terrain. Alright, terrain comes later, we'll think about that after. Time to get building. Okay, the ships are done. We've got 2 frigates. One's got some kind of ramming prow with some missiles. This one's got shark slashers on the side, cannon out the side, and I don't know, this kind of giant honking horn thing. Maybe it's a, I don't know, maybe it's a sonic weapon. Who knows? And then there are 4 brigs, all steampunked up, all kinds of post-apocalyptic nonsense on them. And then the scatter terrain, which doesn't look like much right now, but will look better once it's coloured in. And then the centrepiece to be fighting over. I'm so pleased with how this came out. So this is a bunch of Adeptus Titanicus terrain and sprues. I was going to use the sprues from the Black Seas Frigates box to use everything in that box, but the Adeptus Titanicus sprues that this stuff comes on had these interesting shapes on it, so I've ended up using that. But it looks really cool, and decorated with a few anchors for scale. And it has, of course, a big crane arm. So this is going to look fantastic as a central oil rig, as the main thing to be battling over. Right, time to get these primed and a slappy paint job on them. Right, I've got some freshly primed models and some freshly brewed coffee. Time to find out how this game works. I've got a limited time to write this system, so I'm going to take a few things just as read. We're going to use some Gaslands movement templates. These are a little bit large feeling for the size of these models. I have got some micro Gaslands templates, so I might go find those. Now here's the little ones. So that's a medium move. That feels quite short. Well, this is essentially a purely aesthetic choice, because as long as you're using the same size Gaslands templates each, then everything will be in the same scale. Cannon shot out the side. Okay, so we have our Gaslands templates. The next thing I was really interested in using was a deck of cards. I'm not entirely sure why. I've been messing around with some card-based activation systems for the last year, for various different games. And in this game, I'd sort of said in my conversation with Glenn that I was thinking about maybe doing a deck building mechanic. I'm not sure I've got time to come up with that, so I don't think that's going to be my one clever hook for this game. But I am going to build on some of the ideas around card-based activation systems. And I've got an idea. With these cards, basically I'm torn between the idea that they are cargo in your hold, and they represent the sort of things that your ship is carrying, whether that's oil that you're trying to smuggle from one place to another, or kind of weapons, ammunition, looting stuff. That's one route to go. The other is to use these as a set of action cards, so that black cards move you and red cards do a shoot action. And I quite like that idea, because that lets me say, well, let's give each player a hand of 5, maybe 7 cards. Now you're going to have, on each side, you're going to have 3 ships, because that's what we've got in the box. So if I give this guy a hand of 7 cards and say you can set 1 or 2 cards per ship, and you've got 1 mulligan, and the black ones are the move actions and the red ones are the shooting actions, and then I have to play with what I've got. The problem is that it's a fun sounding system, but the obvious question is what happens if I just draw a load of red cards and then I can't move. So I'm going to mulligan those ones. Do I end up with just a load of black cards? I mostly did end up with a load of black cards. Okay, this would be like, this guy can move, he can move twice, he can move and then shoot. He can move and then shoot, and then the numbers on the cards would be the initiative order in which they activate. So we would probably go with this guy moving first, then this guy moving twice, and then this guy moving. And there would be cards on the other side, so that we would act in the order of all the cards. The good thing about this activation system is it feels like a sort of a way of achieving kind of X-Wing-like programmed movement, but without having to fiddle around about what manoeuvre you're doing. But it could just be kind of frustrating if you don't get the right cards and you feel like you lost because the cards didn't go in your hand. So I don't know. So another approach here would be to say, okay, you've got a deck of cards and you've got a couple of good cards for your big ship and a couple of slower cards. So you've got like a known spread of 1, 2, 3, 4. Hang on, let's split these into suits for a minute. Okay, so you could have some attacking cards and some moving cards, and we have a suit of those each, and that becomes our deck, just like a kind of basic Dominion or Star Realm situation. And so I draw 5 cards and I set those cards. I set one of those cards each, and then I hold or discard the others. So again, the question is, what if I draw a hand of shooting cards? And why is any of this more interesting than just having an alternating activation system? What am I trying to do with this card system? The original impulse with the card system is I wanted to have a set of options in the cards to say, I'm struggling against the wind, but I've got some gas, I've got some fuel that I can use, but I don't want to burn my fuel because it's also the resource that I'm trying to defend and capture. So I wanted to have something where those two things were at tension. Okay, I'm going to have to drink more coffee and think about that. So the next thing is how does the shooting work and how does damage and stuff get recorded? So I've got an idea for how shooting is going to work. Now here's the box for the frigates and brigs flotilla. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a hole in this and make a sort of dice tray into which you will throw dice in order to resolve shooting. I'm going to have to sticky tape it up, I think, a little bit before I do that though. Okay, so now my idea is that there are 2 different sizes of ship card. There's larger ones for the frigates and smaller ones for the brigs. And I'll probably make these so that they tile onto a single sheet of paper. And then I'm going to drop that in there, use some D6, and then you have to drop the dice into the tray. Any dice that are touching the ship card will be a hit. And probably I can make it so that the ship cards have got locations on, a bit like a Man of War card, and then the dice hits that location that it hits. That seems like a good hook for the game, a nice physical damage resolution system that feels kind of fun and old school. I think that's probably enough of a hook. The card-based activation system, I'll keep thinking about that as I'm working. But with these pieces in place, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by making the ship cards, because I think that's going to be the central kind of element that I need to do. And then as I'm working on that, I can be thinking about the rest of the game. And after I've put the ship cards together, I'll probably start on the rulebook. All right, let's get to work. Okay, so here we are in Adobe Illustrator. I've got a blank new A4 document. Let's set about making some cards. So I want to have a biggish card for the big ships and a much smaller card. I think that's a bit too different. And then I'm going to want to have a second one of those so that we have one, and yep, okay. I'm just going to make that a little bit chunkier. So we've got our cards. I'm going to put those on a separate layer. Call that cards, and we'll create a new layer. So I'm going to start with some silhouettes of some ships. So I've grabbed some silhouettes from the internet, just some simple vector silhouettes. So let's put that there. Lovely. That's roughly how you spell silhouettes. I'm going to lock both of these layers so that I don't select anything whilst I'm working on them, and I'm going to create some hit location lines. So I'm going to use a line tool, and I'll make them dotted in a minute. So I want to have a line across the middle that is grey and kind of fat and has some dottedness on it. As we strike, there it is. Make it a dashed line. Yep, that'll do. And then I'm going to create some that split the front and the main mast. Yeah, I think we can make that look a bit nicer. And then I think I'll just have one at the bottom to split the bow from the stern, like that. Great, let's label these. So we've got, we'll call this the foremast. My favourite font at the moment is Supernormal. Make it a little bit bigger. Going to copy that a few times, and we'll have a main mast, and I'm kind of sure it's called a mizzen mast. I'll go and check in a minute. And then need a couple more of these because we need a bow and a stern. Be nice if those were lined up. Right, now the next thing we need is some hit boxes so that we can check off damage when the dice land and you get a hit. So let's draw a box. That's not what I want. That's a bit thick. Let's go for about half that. Probably can be a bit grey. So I want a couple of boxes. And some of those for each of the zones, the locations rather. And then I think that when you check some of the boxes, you get some kind of damage effect. So that would be pretty easy to just add -1 speed. When it loses a mast, it takes a speed hit. When it gets damaged in the body, it's going to lose some shooting ability. So we'll just duplicate those all over the place. In fact, I think probably the main mast, it being bigger and everything, I think probably make that have a additional damage box. Cool, okay, I'm going to do a pretty similar thing for the brigs. I think in this case I'm just going to have a pair of upper locations because we're just going to have a foremast and a main mast. Great, that looks good. Make a copy of that for the second ship. Alright, I think that is good. Let's get them printed off and sliced up. Alright, I've printed a quick version of these off to test. Let's get a pair of scissors. Okay, so here's our Black Seas Frigates and Brigs Flotilla box. So we open that up and we pop in our ship card. We get some dice and we've hit the stern twice. Oh, Oh, okay, so 2 on the foremast, 1 on the mizzenmast, and 1 on the stern. Yeah, this is jolly. I don't know if the dice have to roll specific numbers. They probably don't. Maybe a 6 is double shots. That's quite a lot of hits. I wonder if that's enough to sink them. Who knows? How exciting. Okay, so then that's our frigate. Oh, it doesn't say frigate or brig on it anyway. Probably should say frigate or brig on it. Doesn't matter. And then there's a little one. These little ones are harder to hit. Ah, oh, there we go. That's a couple. And these ones are on the edge. We'll have to come up with some kind of algorithm for that. Good. That's fun. I'm going to move these guys out of the way so that I can add some details about the ship. So I want the ship class and I want a space for you to be able to write your name, the ship's name. And then a nice little box for you to write in. These boxes are about the right height already, so I'll just make it, copy that style, and then we'll say class. Now you don't call it class, do you? Do you call it rating? We'll go with type for now, and we'll figure out what the right name is in a moment. But this is always going to be filled in by me, because this is going to say... Okay, so I have ship cards. We have ships. Let's set up a tiny demo game. The masts of these are not glued on yet because I want to paint them and then stick the sails on, so they're going to wobble around alarmingly. I'll put some terrain here just to get in the way. And I've got my movement templates here. Which direction is the wind going? We'll say it's going that way for the sake of argument. And let me introduce you to my little friend, the wind gauge. So I made this a couple of years ago, and it's just 3 circular ding-dongs that you can print out and stick together with a banana clip. What you do with it is when you want to move a ship, you take the dial and you put the whole kit and caboodle so that it is pointing north. North is pointing north. And then you rotate the wind direction dial to the direction that the wind is going in. So if it's going north, you point it at north. And then you turn the central dial to match the heading of your ship with the little arrow pointing that way. And this green thing here tells you what zone of sailing you are in. So with the wind blowing like that on this ship, it is currently reaching, and then there's some tiny writing here that says if it's a 2-sail ship, it's moving at speed 5, and if it's a 3-sail ship, it's moving at speed 4. And 4 and 5 speeds are basically the equivalent to gears. So this guy, being a small ship that is reaching, can use templates that would be valid in gear 5. So that's the sailing system. I don't know what system moves the wind dial around, because I think that's going to be related to the activation system, and I don't exactly know what the activation system is yet. What I do know is that shooting is managed with templates and is going to be quite short-ranged. Now this is where the small templates versus the big templates makes a big difference. The movement was kind of an aesthetic choice. The ability to strike multiple ships is obviously significantly different. So I think it's actually essential that we use this large template. So that means it's going to have to be large movement templates all around, which is better anyway, because these are normal Gaslands templates. But to be able to get moving, we need to know what the activation system is. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go with a simple alternating activation system where you move and shoot in either order. Alright, so let's roll for initiative. So this chap will activate. The wind's going north. He's pointing that way, so he's reaching. He's a 2-sail ship, so he can move up to speed 5. So he can't take a turn, but he could take a gentle round to there. And then he can't shoot anyone. And in this game right now, you can only shoot by going straight out the middle, centered on your vessel. There's lots of cool little weapons that I've put on these ships, but we'll get to defining those later. So then it's these guys. We know that this guy's also reaching. Oh, interesting. That guy's now on the line between beating and reaching, so I need a way of adjudicating that. This guy would be sensible just to pummel on forward. He cannot shoot anyone sideways. If he did have a forward-firing weapon, maybe he'd be able to do it, but I just don't think forward-firing weapons is the most naval. So this guy could move to here, rather risking a collision, but we'll figure that out in a minute. And then he shoots out the side, sends it on the thing. He can clip him so he can hit him. So we grab our shooting box. The controller of the target ship gets to put the ship card anywhere they like. And then this guy, I'm just going to go with 6 dice for the little ships and 9 dice for the big ships right now. So it's sort of 3 dice per mast. I'll figure out exactly what the number of dice is in a minute. Okay, so it has to drop from like, I guess you have to drop from at least long. Missed! So I don't need to record any damage. This guy is going to... He is beating so he can move speed 4. Now this is an intriguing move. Don't know if that's a realistic sailing move. But he's coming up right behind his friend. He's not got anyone to shoot. This guy will, if he ends up turning all the way round, it's alright, we'll go with this. So he can move in speed 4. So he's going to come around like this. He can't get a broadside yet, but that's what he's aiming for. And we've got this guy left to go. He's going to do the same thing that his flagship did. Close the distance like that. And then, why not, we'll go for another initiative roll. So these guys go first. This one looks like it wants to squeeze in here, but I don't know if it can. Lovely. Okay, so this guy squeezes through this gap here, and who will he... Oh, I guess the question then is, can you shoot both sides? This is where a card-based activation sort of resource system would be interesting, because if I had a hand of cards and I had like 1 extra shoot card that I hadn't assigned yet, then I could choose to burn it now, or potentially save it for this other one. That makes me think, if we did have some cards, if the problem I was having with the card system is that you don't want to end up with all moves or all shoots, then there's an easy way of solving that, right? Which is just split these things up. So if we have a bunch of black cards and a bunch of red cards, if we split the deck into reds and blacks, I haven't completely done it now, but whatever, then you could say, well, here's the shooting cards, here's the movement cards. You can take 7 cards. What would you like to do? And you could say, well, I'd like 3 from moving, and then I'd like 3 from shooting, and then I've got 1 extra. So do I want a bonus move or a bonus shoot? And in this situation, let's say I chose a bonus shoot. So then the question was, well, how come I got initiative? And I've got these aces in my hand, so maybe I played an ace to move, and then you didn't have an ace, so I played an ace to shoot, and I shot that way. And then, can I keep shooting with that same guy? I've got another ace, so can I keep shooting with the same guy? And if you've got some cards, can you interrupt? Yeah, I don't know, but that starts to feel kind of intriguing. So I would have that hand. You'd have 3 of those, and you'd have decided that you wanted extra shooting as well because we're in the big melee. So I chose to play an ace. and moved, and then you said, well, I've got an ace as well, so you moved this guy next. And then is it my turn to play a card? Is it this guy's turn to play a card, and so he can choose to play a movement to avoid the gunnery? Or is it a case that we are basically just playing through in order? Because if we're playing through in order, then there is not an enormous amount of interest in the cards once you've got them. That just sort of tells you what you've got. Ah, okay, yeah, so that would be the interesting way to do it, wouldn't it? So we've got some cards in our hand. For our next action, we both choose and set one card. Once we've chosen it, we reveal it. And so we've declared a movement or shooting and the initiative value at which we're going to operate. So there'd have to be a suit break here. But we'll say that this is the ace of spades goes first. So, okay, great, we're both going to move. I got to move first, so I moved to there. Then you moved second, moved out of the way. I didn't get an opportunity to move and shoot at the same time. Maybe that's a joker. It's a move and shoot at the same time. And so now we are deciding what our next card is. I've got a high shoot, so I could shoot you here or there. You could decide to shoot me, but you would shoot second, thus possibly suffering damage to your cannon before you get a chance to shoot. Or you could go for a fast move, because you don't know if I've got a high card. I suppose that's a sort of middling card, a sort of low middle move. If you thought that you could get away with squeaking out either here or here. Yeah, alright, that's an activation system. That'll work. So it needs deck divided in two. You draw 7 cards, choosing from which deck you want, and then we go through the process of playing cards from our hand to activate ships. And maybe ships can only be moved once. Maybe you just play, and there's only three ships each. Maybe you just play. All right, that's cool. That's an activation system. So we have a shooting system, we have an activation system, we have a wind system. We don't have an objective system yet, but we do have our lovely objective marker. So what do we do with this? Are we playing a game of defend the thing, or blow up the thing, or steal tokens from the thing? Is this a defend the thing? That might be interesting. So if one team started next to the thing and the other team had to come and destroy them, maybe that's interesting. Get some asymmetry. I quite liked I guess we can use this machine and we can say you can have a take and hold objective, so the ships nearer score points, and then there could be a second mission where one person is trying to defend it and the other person is trying to destroy the defenders. And then the third one could be that there's lots of scatter terrain and you have to salvage stuff from the scatter terrain. Yeah, okay. I think there's enough to scratch out a draft rulebook here. I wouldn't normally go straight to a rulebook, but I would quite often at this point just go through the process of writing the rules up, at least in a very rough draft form. So I think that's what I'm going to do now. I do have to get to a rulebook fairly quickly, so I may just jump to that straight stage. All right, see you in a bit. Okay, the dreaded blank sheet of paper. Let's see if we can fill this up. So this is going to be Rad Pirates of the Toxic Seas. It's going to be a quick rules dump. Let's start figuring out some sections. So we're going to have ships, core rules, which is going to be the operating system. We'd have a game overview, which I'll write later. A round structure, moving, shooting, damage, scenarios, game end, probably goes into the scenarios. Okay, so what I tend to do at this point is sort of fill in what I know as bullet points. Actually, we need a setting up, and we need a what do you need? Okay, I've made a little bit more progress and I've got to this part here, which is building your flotilla. So your flotilla contains 1 frigate and 2 brigs. Great. Refitting your ships. Now this is the fun bit. So I spent some time customizing and scratch building these ships to look kind of cool, and so now I need to figure out what they're armed with. So I've said that for the sake of argument right now, each frigate has got 6 build slots, which is basically 2 per mast. And so brigs have 4, and by default a frigate is fitted with 6 broadside batteries, which would be just the normal, like throw some dice out the side and their critical effect is 2 damage instead of 1 damage. But you are free to replace any number of broadside batteries with items from the following list, ensuring that you do not exceed the build slot limit for the vessel. So I think what I'm going to try is just balance the weapons based on the slots that they consume. Gaslands does it with both slots and cans, but this is a very fixed list kind of a game, so let's try that. So I've got some pictures of the ships that I've built, and I'm going to try and figure out what it is that I have built here. Okay, so what is this guy armed with? Now he has got a cannon out the side, so we can go for long range cannon, and we'll give it a different effect. So this can be, it's 3 slots and its facing is broadside, because I don't want this one to shoot out the front. The attack dice is going to be 4d6 with a critical effect of 2 damage, but the special is uses the long template. So it'd be slightly longer range, but you have to be more accurate with it. It's also got some kind of shark teeth, which can be 1 slot. Facing is broadside, attack dice is 66, critical damage is not sure, and special is only usable in collisions. What else we got? Got that honking sonic attack. Oh, what's the name of that Hawkwind song? Yes, this is going to be a sonic attack. Sonic horn, sonic blaster, sonic weapon. So I'll have 2 slots. What does it do? Dunno. It's going to shake things. Yeah, the critical damage can be discard a card, so it shakes things out. That's very powerful, so we probably only want a couple of attack dice for each hit. Discard a card. Instead of damage, discard a card. I think that's what I want. Is there anything else going on here? I don't think so. That's enough. Okay, what's going on with this next? Okay, well this has got some kind of like power ram thing. Slots, say 2, facing front, attack dice, like loads. Just an unnecessary number. Maybe even more than that. Critical effect, 1 damage back on the attacker. And then the special is, obviously, it's only usable in collisions. I don't think it's got anything else of interest, actually, other than the little unicorn on its prow. Okay, this one has got a rocket launcher. What is the rocket launcher going to do? It feels like quite a long-ranged weapon. I wonder if you take the small template and the medium template and you put them down, but only the small template. Yeah, all right, that's fun. Okay, so special. The special is you pick a template, pick a speed 4 template, be a speed 3 template, lay it down and put the small burst template at the end. Anything touched by the small burst template is struck. Okay, cool, that's fun. So that is a attack dice. I don't know. I kind of want it to matter when you land, so we'll go 66, critical effect, none, because it's already got some funky stuff. And then, would this be the only thing this is armed with? We'll go for 3. It might be too harsh, because for 3 slots you could get 6 dice of batteries, but instead you're getting 6 dice of, yeah, sure, whatever. Is it armed with anything else? It's got this big shield arc thing. Shield bubble, magnetic repulsion field generator. This could be a sort of, oh yeah, we can do it that way. Okay, so we'll say it's a thumper. So this can be a 3 slot, there's no facing, there's no attack dice, there's no critical, and the special is place the wind tile over the ship, move all other ships directly away from this one without changing facing until move all other ships that are overlapped the wind gauge directly away from this ship without changing facing until they are no longer overlapping the wind gauge. That's going to be a pain in the ass to do, but it's a funny idea. And that's all we care about. Okay, what do we got here? Well, that's a harpoon. Except it's really big, so we're going to call it a super harpoon. Super harpoon. Slots 2 facing broadside. Attack dice 2. Critical effect none. Special if the target is within short when struck, when hit by this weapon, move the target into contact without changing its heading. Come here. Cool. Now this doesn't have a special weapon. This has a sort of utility thing. So what should we say? Auxiliary or tanker refit. Slots 2. Special something. Heal friends. Capture more loot. I think I need to know more about the scenarios to figure out what that tanker refit does. Alright, Well, that's some equipment of dubious balance, so I'm going to get those properly written up, and yeah, catch you in a minute. It is now 47 hours since I spoke to you at the start of this video. I have put the models together, I have built some terrain, I have painted the models, although it's a pretty quick, slappy job. I have got a basic rulebook, although it's covered with scrawls that I need to write up. And I have the ship cards and the dice box ready to go. Glenn's coming over this morning and we are going to play test it. Let's hope it works. Okay, so you get half of the ships from the frigates and brigs box. There's the green hulled ones. For this test game, although it looks like the ships have different equipment, and they will, they all just have basic stuff. Okay. You've got a frigate and 2 brigs, and for those you will have cards. Okay. So that's your... I need to get a pencil for us as well. So I think you possibly already ingested the rough setting of this, but specifically where we are is the Mediterranean. Right. But the Sahara went north and has kind of combined something has caused the Mediterranean to empty and the Sahara spread north. So the Sahara, the Med-Sahara super desert is now a thing. Right. And all of the nuclear bombardment and whatever has caused a load of radiation under the sands, which is generating the heat, which is causing the convection currents, which are making the sand superfluid. Right. So the Sahara and the Mediterranean are all just a massive superfluid sand desert now. Right. Of course, one of the things that's still poking up out of the sand desert is the oil rigs, in North Africa and the Mediterranean. So they become the focus of what we're up to, which is either sort of truckers moving the oil from a legitimate oiling platform to some sellers, or pirates trying to raid that juicy lifeline. Right. So that's what we are. In this first scenario, I think you'll be defending this and I'll be attacking it. But that's basically just the straight up fight. You just happen to start next to the rig. The game has this wind direction thing, so we can say, for the sake of argument, north can be that way, and where the wind is currently facing, we'll determine in a moment, and then where your ship goes, is where your ship is currently pointed, combines with those two things to generate it. Right. Exactly where the wind goes in relationship to the starting players and stuff, I haven't quite figured out, but I think we're going to generate the wind direction and then deploy, and so that will be that. We have Gaslands movement templates. Okay. We won't be needing the slide or the small template. We will be needing all of the other ones, including the broadside. So there are a load of red cards with a joker in, and a load of black cards, hopefully with a joker in. The red cards are the shooting deck, the black cards are the sailing deck. The game is split into rounds, and at the start of the round you draw a hand of 7 cards. You choose which decks you want to choose from, and it can be in any mixture. Okay. And then those become a hand of basically actions that you're going to be able to take. So if you want to do more moving, you draw more sailing cards. Yeah. So the round is then split into a number of plays, where a play is we both set a card, we reveal it, the person with the highest card takes the first turn, does the action represented by their card, and then the lower card takes their turn. That's the end of the play. Do another play until we run out of cards. Right. When you do sailing, it doesn't matter what the number of the card is, that's purely about initiative. So when you do the sailing, you would use the little dial to find out what your speed is, whereas 0 if you're in irons, all the way up to 5 if you're reaching. And that's the gear you're in. That's the gear you're in. The only difference here is that for this game, the medium is just 3 and 4. So it's short is 1 and 2, medium is 3 and 4, long is 5 and 6.
Okay.
When you do shooting, because of the basic weapons we've got, you stick this template out exactly the middle of the side, on either side, and then you get, if it's a big guy, you get 12d6, if it's a little guy, you get 8d6, and you can distribute those among anyone that it's touching.
So the number of the shooting deck doesn't matter either?
No, that's purely initiative.
Cool.
Yeah, that's purely initiative. And then when we do shooting, we get the shooting box. The person who's getting shot at puts their card in the middle here. You drop your dice in and hope that they land on the card and not off the card.
Right.
And if they land on the card, they do damage. And if they roll 6s and they land on the location, they do double damage.
Right.
If you can't do more damage to a location, you just have to put it on an adjacent location. So there's a sort of damage will quickly spread. I have no idea how vicious the damage system is. It might be a little vicious, but it's difficult to know because I haven't quite figured out like what the odds of the shooting box are yet.
Well, yeah, it's largely impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Well,
guess-
I could experimentally.
Yes, I guess you want to put your ship template as much in the middle. You don't want to be putting it in a corner.
Yeah, at one point I had different systems where you had to like put different cards in different corners and stuff, but this way it just behooves the person putting the template in to just try and get it as much in the middle as possible, but it's not exactly, it doesn't matter exactly.
No.
The only thing else that's worth mentioning is how collisions and boarding actions work. So if you smash into something, yes, a collision happens and you roll some dice and they can only hit they only do damage to the bit of the ship that you've smashed into.
Right.
So it's you roll the dice, but it doesn't matter which location they hit, it always smashes into the bit that you're touching. And once you're touching someone, you can you declare one immediately? I think you might be able to declare one immediately. After colliding, the active player can immediately play a card from their hand to declare a boarding action. If they do not, the other player gets one chance to. And if neither do, then just as a normal action, you can reveal any colour of card and declare a boarding action. So there's sailing actions, shooting actions, and boarding actions. It's just the boarding actions use either card.
Okay, so it doesn't matter what card you've got when you want to board.
Well, so it does a little bit. So the way that boarding actions work is the colour of the card that's been revealed is now like the active colour for that boarding action.
Okay.
And then you, as the attacker, would bid a number of, like a combined face value of cards that you are able to reveal to win that.
That have to match that card.
That have to match that colour.
Right.
So you've got to play the colour but also have some more of that colour in your hand.
Right.
And then you would say that you can raise that by saying, no, I can reveal more and win this, or you can say, that's fine, I'll let you have that, or you can call me and say, BS, you don't have that many in your hand, at which point I would have to reveal.
Okay.
We can go through the details of that, but the winner of the boarding action gets to make an attack against the loser's vessel with a number of dice equal to that final bid amount. So if you bid quite a lot of it could be like 20 dice.
Okay, nice.
So yeah, with the intention that, as with most sailing games, boarding actions are basically like, if you win a boarding action, it's curtains.
Okay.
I think that's everything that's relevant.
Okay, let's see.
I'm excited to find out where it breaks, because I'm pretty sure it will. Yeah, that's roughly legal. So we draw 7 cards. I don't know who goes first, so I'm going to go first.
Okay.
And then we set a card, so I'm going to set this guy.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll go first. These guys are running in this direction, so that's a move 3. There's no difference in speed between the ships in this basic version.
Okay.
So this thing is valid in 3, so he's going to romp. You okay? Yeah, I haven't checked the angles to see whether you can tack with a hairpin or not. That's what I need to figure out.
It looks like he's not totally into the wind if he does that. So he's going to do that.
No, I think he's still beating at that point.
He'll do that.
Great.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I could go with this guy again. So yeah, so let's push that part of the system to see whether something falls off. I'll go with this gently. Yeah, so that's good. So I could have played a lower card and done this move later on, but then I guess you would have responded with a high card on the next activation.
So he's going to do beating.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if this is a good idea. But...
He'll go a long way. Oh, he's going to smash.
So...
when a ship collides with another ship, they both make a ram attack against each other. That doesn't feel right. Ship collides with it makes... Yeah, let's do the cinematic one rather than the realistic one. I'm sure they would both take damage, but
okay,
smashing in is good. Frigates roll. That's not right. That's supposed to be... What would it be? So you get 6 dice. We get the thing. I put in the thing. The point of contact is past my halfway point, so you're striking my stern.
Okay.
So any dice that hits the ship card counts as a hit against the stern.
Okay. How high from the card am I meant to drop the dice?
You are specifically supposed to drop it from more than long.
Okay.
Ooh, okay, that's just about touching, and it says if there's any doubt, it is in. Okay. There are 2 dice, neither of them are 6s, so I'm going to take 2 damage on my stern.
Okay.
Plomp, plomp. Cross those out. So 2 things happen now. One is you can immediately play a card to declare a boarding action. The other is to know that if you begin a sailing action in contact with an enemy vessel, they can declare that you're lashed, and if they do declare that, you ignore the wind and you can only push off, which is like a very short move, which is the width of a template, without changing your direction. If you begin in contact with a friendly vessel or they decide not to lash you, then you do the Gaslands thing of ignoring and just teleporting through, moving through.
I guess I will declare a boarding action.
So you need to reveal a card as your kind of like boarding action card. Okay, so it's a red boarding action.
Yeah.
So now you bid how much face value out of combining cards using whatever you can show me.
Okay.
And thus gain the attack dice for that.
I guess I'll go with 12.
12. I can bid 13.
Okay. So what's my option here?
So you can now raise again, call or fold.
I guess I'll call.
Okay. So if when you call a player, the other player must reveal and discard cards of the active colour from their hand with a total value equal to or above their bid. So I can reveal that because I've got an ace and a 9, which is 19. If they can, they win, and you must reveal and... Do I need this part? You must reveal and discard cards of the active colour from your hand. No, we don't need that bit because I'm already getting the benefit of winning by getting the attack. So that's nonsense. So the player that wins the boarding action makes an attack against the loser with the number of attack dice equal to the final bid, which was, what did I say, 13?
You said 13. So what happens to this 4?
That gets discarded, as do these, so I've got fewer cards to play this round.
Okay.
As do you. Okay, so pleased to be putting your ship card in there.
It's ironic that larger ships are easier to board.
It is ironic. It's not the perfect system for the boarding or for the ramming, that matter, but it's a hooky little...
Why are you shaking them?
I don't know. Good thing might be 6s. Oh, one's escaped. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Okay.
I think these guys have only got 11.
Okay, so is that destroyed in a single file boarding action?
Yeah, destroyed in a single file boarding action. I did say that the damage system might be a little bit crunchy.
Well, yeah. And you happening to have, fewer red cards but happening to have an ace and a 9 is just like...
Yeah. How many red cards did you take out of
3.
interest? 3. Okay, interesting. I think that system is close to working. Obviously, the surprise there is how much damage it did, but I don't think that the system is faulty. Maybe the numbers are wrong. Because normally in this sort of situation, like this guy would only have like a maximum number of crew that he can board in, or some kind of cap.
It certainly seems odd that the frigate ploughing into a brig then gets completely destroyed from fresh in a single boarding action.
Yeah, totally. Because the damage system, like it could just be the cards are too big or something. Like this is what I mean about the like working the percentages out. Because like I could say, oh well, they have to hit and then be a 3 as well. But like, well, then why are we using this? Why am I bothering with this physical thing? So I think the physical thing is okay. The card needs to be a little smaller.
Well, it feels like maybe brigs can put up to 1 card into the boarding action. Frigates can put up to 2 cards into the boarding action.
Yeah. Okay. And then there isn't because the challenge with a boarding action with a cap is that if there's a cap, then you just bid 1 above that cap.
If you have... Well, but if you...
Then it would force me to call you, basically.
Well, it means that frigates with cards higher than the cap are relatively safe boarding brigs, which seems sane. Brigs can't outbid brigs and frigates can't outbid frigates because you can both put in 2 cards. So I can't just go... If I'm doing a brig against a brig, I can't just go higher than an ace because I can only put in an ace. So that's not... It's not definitive when brigs versus brigs and frigates versus frigates. It means that the frigate can go higher than an ace, and then you can call them.
And then I'll just call them, and then if you've got the card, so be it.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree.
Yeah. Yeah, so a frigate with a good solid card in their hand is basically... Yeah, I think
well,
that's
it
right,
feels like a brig rolling in front of a frigate so that the frigate can board them has presumably taken a poor choice. It doesn't feel like the brig should be like, I'm fine. I've got a couple of face cards in my hand. I think I'll just take on and obliterate that frigate.
Yeah.
I think that the brig should be like, it's a frigate.
I'll buy that. I'll buy that. So let's pop that guy back in play.
Okay.
So we'll pop that guy back in play.
So if it was that system, I would gone with 12 still.
You would have gone with 12 because that's above what I can bid.
Yeah.
I would have gone, well, I'm either going to let you throw 12 dice at me or call you, but the penalty for calling is I'd have to reveal and discard cards up to that value, so that would be like clearing my hand out. So I'd like to have these cards, so I'm going to call you on it, even though it's slightly risky.
Yeah, well, 12 on 2 cards isn't exactly difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's 12.
Okay, so you win.
He is tiny, and so... yeah, it's just really hard to hit brigs.
It's not really hard, it's really random. 1?
So, do I have to set a card?
That's a good question. If you've got fewer cards than me, it seems reasonable that you should pass. Being allowed to pass when you've got more cards just seems like a way of making the game.
I mean, boarding actions will always mean
drain
that somebody has fewer cards than the other person because they drain cards more quickly than all other actions.
Yeah, and so then having fewer cards is weak, but being able to pass is strong. So yeah, let's say that.
Okay, so in this situation, I think I'm going to pass.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'd love to be able to get away from you. You're likely to lash me, but that's okay. So yeah, so I'll move this guy.
I guess I'll lash you.
Okay. So I'm not allowed to change its orientation. I just have to move it so that it's that away. So they've sort of shoved away.
Okay.
Now it's a new setting of a new card. So I'll do that. So I've got shoot, you've got sail, but I've got a higher one, so I get to go first. So before you escape, I'm going to...
Okay.
So pleased to be putting your ship card in the box. And I'll roll 8 dice at you. Sorry, you were about to say?
Nothing. I was just sort of thinking about the fact that, of course, having a shared deck of cards means that, you have the possibility of somebody just drawing all the good cards, unlike normally you'd have your own deck in a deck of cards game.
Yeah. That statement's really odd because, like, normally in a deck of cards game, in normal life, you always play with one deck of cards, and then it's like how the deck gets distributed is part of the challenge. Whereas in something like Malifaux, that would feel weird.
Well, I think in a minis game, the thing that you're sort of selling with introducing a deck of cards is luck is guaranteed to even out. The guy's sort of on the line between beating and
if it's on the line, pick the better of the two, and I'll make that a rule.
Better as in higher, or
as
better
in
as in
higher.
which I would prefer?
That's a good... Yeah, the second one. He's got no battle damage, so he's rolling 12 dice. Come on, over there. Ah, nearly. So only 2.
Yep. So I can put that one anywhere.
Has to put that on an adjacent thing, which is all of them. Yeah.
So there.
And then
2
on that.
On the stern.
Yeah. Here we go. All into the corners. All into the corners. So 2 on the main mast, 1 on the... that looks like the mizzen mast to me, but I'll be happy either way.
Sure, yeah.
No, I think that's going to be too much. I think as long as it's actually going to pull him past proper shooting... No, we'll give it a go. I think it's too far. Maybe. No, I think we're going to be all right.
Okay. Same again then.
So I see you spent all your movement early doors. Yeah. Same again.
Well, I mean, strictly speaking, I acted last because although I could hit nothing with the card I played, it was lower than your card.
That's true. Yeah.
Do I have to actually do the card, or?
I mean, it feels like if you. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. I mean,
would you like me to draw cards first? I don't mind.
I don't think it makes a massive amount of difference.
It's a little bit of
just asking.
Yeah, it's a bit of information. Yeah, I don't know. Now we need to do the wind check, which we forgot last time.
All right.
So I'm going to flip a card from here. It doesn't change. You flip a card from either side. If it's a royal, it changes. So that is a royal. For the purpose of this, I'm just going to check what the rules are.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so the wind has spun round. It's now going this way.
Mm-hmm.
We all need to recalculate what's going on here. Okay, he's reaching. He's beating. Okay, fine. Okay. Ooh. Gonna activate this guy who's beating.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd like to swerve, but I cannot. So I will do this, even though I think it might pull me into irons. It's without a question, this wind dial is the star of the show. It's really, it does exactly what I was hoping it does. It makes the whole thing very jolly. Ah, nice! Come around behind me. Run away!
Okay.
I'm gonna do this because that's valid in 5. Yes, sir. Load the starboard cannon!
Yeah,
oh, no, yes, of course, he can do it, yes. Yeah.
It's moved to the guy who isn't damaged and so has more dice to shoot with.
Curses. Oh!
Yeah.
He hasn't got his technique yet. I wonder if there's a special technique where if you, like, bounce it off the other side, maybe you have to...
I don't know. Maybe you're banking it off of the cover as a baffle.
Yeah, or you're like bouncing them in from one side or something.
Yeah.
All right, so that was a dud. It's not yet a dexterity game of skill. It is just thrown in the box lid like what we did in Space Fleet. Boarding?
Yeah, I'll go for boarding. So
Which
I
colour?
put that in for black for boarding.
Black boarding, okay. Do you know what? It might be interesting if that bid. I was thinking about the sort of charge advantage. Like the charge advantage could be that that's part of your played cards, and so a charging brig essentially gets 2 cards.
I don't know, possibly.
Anyway, okay, so
because this card is just thrown away. This does nothing other than being allowed to declare that you are boarding, which feels a bit like.
Yeah, which is actually unnecessary now that we're always spending cards for the boarding. Maybe it is just unnecessary. Because maybe you just declare like 5 of black as your opening bid, but it stays in your hand. Yeah, maybe that's better because you're going to be forced to. Because why that's that? It's like you set an action card. It's just you've got to do it out of sequence.
Yeah,
but you're always going to lose some
because
cards.
Just a card. It's just a drain of a card out of your hand.
Yeah, and you could, if you big balls a bid and I just say fine, you win, then you get the advantage of not having shown any cards and not discarding it. So yeah, put that back in your hand and bid 5 black. Or whatever you want to.
I mean, sure, I'll open by bidding 5 black. I can rebid.
Yeah, exactly. 5 black, you say. I will go for. So your highest card that you could have is a 10 at the moment because I've said all the face cards are 10s, which is much less interesting. Now it would be better if they were 11, 12, 13, and 14 because there'd be more space for bidding. So we'll say that.
Okay.
So that means you might have an ace, which means you might be able to bid 14.
If we haven't seen both the aces go past in the deck.
If we hadn't already seen both the aces. So I could say 13. I bid 13.
I mean, can I bid 13?
Yes, but then I could call you?
Yeah.
And you wouldn't be able to show it?
I mean, if I can show it. So I'll bid 13.
But... Oh, okay. Oh, yes, because you could have the king. You could have the king. So I needed to have gone 14, but if I go 4... Yeah, so I'll go 17.
I mean, I have to ask you to show that.
Yeah, so I will show 17. It costs me 2 cards, but I get to dump a load of dice on your shit. There's an opportunity here to put like minus boarding dice because like the crew quarters have been squashed. Yeah. That's not that good actually. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, so I guess I draw first, so I have to take these 2. What, incidentally, does the Joker do?
Oh, the Joker's great. So the Joker's a couple things. The Joker, when you set and reveal that card, you get to do 2 different actions. And it also counts as whatever number you want it to count as.
Right.
For the purposes of initiative. So my guy is currently reaching for 5. He's going to attempt to run aground.
Interesting strategy.
Like that.
Okay.
No one destroys my ships but me!
So, next round.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
So I will do a shoot followed by a move.
Okay.
At the highest possible speed. So I will shoot you.
Just skimmed him.
That's easy. Easy peasy. I can't even get the template in because there's too much model in the way. 8 dice.
I think he's only got 2 left.
Well, those are the 2 that I needed.
Okay.
And then he'll perform the rest of his cunning manoeuvre to get out of dodge. Zhoop.
Why have you pointed the ship in that direction? Okay.
Yeah, he's still reaching. So I'm just going to slowly come round.
What happens if you go off the table?
Yes. Technically, there's no table edge in this game.
Okay.
You just have to get a broomstick to
So
put your model on.
Yeah, into the glorious world of tablecloth. Okay.
Now I've got you, Glenbeard.
Yeah, of course, if we entirely go past each other,
That would be sad.
it'd be an unfortunate thing.
What round are we on? This is round 5, isn't it? This one doesn't have a time limit. The other 2 scenarios have a round 5 time limit. So I'll probably add a round 5 time limit to this. We'll say this is the last round, and then it would have to be a tiebreaker on how much damage.
Okay.
So you need to...
That's a rule just decided on when you notice that your guy has no damage on him.
I mean, there's not really anything else that I've got available to me because there's no stats or numbers.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, that's why we design games, is to be able to design our way to victory
This
on
is
the
where
fly.
you suddenly sail off into the at speed into the distance.
No, that would be the coward's way out. 3 is not... Yeah, 4's
1,
enough.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think.
6 is sunk. Blub, 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 blub. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yo-ho. So yeah, feedback, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, generally it's fine. It's interesting. Like, I guess the game specifies that you use the Warlord frigates box specifically because that makes a huge difference.
Right.
I imagine.
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
had a tighter box.
I think the interesting thing is that the difference in size just feels too stark.
Yeah.
I think the frigate card probably gets a bit smaller.
Obviously, given that in boarding you can have more dice than any shooting.
Yeah.
Like, that a brig can board with 14 dice, and in theory a frigate can board with 29 dice if you get lucky enough.
Which is actually a reason to reintroduce or not remove that, like, you have to spend a card to activate the boarding, because although it's a card out of your hand, it is in essence to get the most powerful game effect.
Yeah, it's tricky because it's like draining your hand so that you have fewer activations does feel painful because it takes away your agency.
But then so is being on the receiving end of 28 dice.
But when you realise potentially how powerful what you get for it is, then that sort of... My fear is that it's just like 7 move cards, please. I stuff the shooting thing.
That's absolutely a worry.
I just want to, because between the boarding collision and the 14 to 20 something dice, where you're basically like, in theory, a frigate can roll in with 33 dice in a single boarding action.
And like, there is definitely a simple fix for just like, okay, you just get half that many dice, or no. I mean, I do like bidding. I do like that the bid changes the amount of dice you roll, and it does just feel like it rolls twice as many dice as shooting does, and so either shooting rolls twice as many dice, but it's just more fiddling about, or you get 1 for every 2 you bid. This sort of collision thing, it feels like unless I'm at speed 5 and I'm like really hammering along, like, I mean, it might just be that collisions just aren't relevant because like sailing ships smashing into each other is not that, like, it doesn't really happen in cinema, or it's not really that interesting. What's interesting is, coming up alongside, lowering the boarding ramps and
throwing the grapples
and everything. And the ramming part, like, didn't really do anything that big either way, and it's just like one more subsystem that could get cut.
Because it's tricky, because of course, in reality, once 2 ships are sort of tied together in a boarding action, they more or less stay there until the boarding action
which is fine but boring.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that.
Although, having said that, like, even if you halved the effectiveness of boarding actions, like 1 or 2 turns of boarding actions would probably result in a sunk ship, which means you do end up getting the cinema of like, well, it was there, they were lashed together until 1 sunk.
Yeah, you sort of want to just go like let's just have the boarding action over in one massive card rather than like multiple rounds of another card. So I think that part's fine.
Okay, I can make a move, and if I end within 1 inch, which is essentially this like very short thing, then I can make a little like consolidation move by just pushing them together.
Yeah, and so if you do sort of like, as you say, if you swing around like this, you go, well, what I'm doing is like that, and moving a little board. And that, I think, would be potentially more interesting with the resultant movement, because obviously, where you end in a move like this, the next move is a bit like you pass through each other. It's like you say, it's going back to the old GASLANDS oddness. Whereas if every collision ends like this, it means that everybody can then move off again because you're always faced like in parallel lines. And I would argue that at this point the movement is sort of even more interesting to be like, can I bid low enough that he moves off first and I can then, you know, follow back into him or, you know, do whatever else it is I'm going to do.
Yeah, and like I put the collisions rules in because, you know, when you got objects moving around like this, you need collision rules. But actually, like when we did it in practice, it just felt like I don't really see this. I don't really see this in my head cinema. This is not like how these ships are interacting. They're not moving fast enough. They're not.
I thought I was reassured by the fact that when I was here and you were there, we got back within a round of movement.
Yeah, that was good. Particularly because
that
like I was in iron, so you had to do most of the work.
Yeah. Well, once the wind's behind you and you can take the gentle and the long.
Yeah, you absolutely cream.
You know, in an open area like this, unlike a Gaslands track, you can really shift with you know, with those templates. They do move you pretty fast.
Yeah, and I had no idea how long the game needed to be, but we played 5 rounds and that felt fine. Like,
I mean, 5 rounds actually finished the game out.
Yeah,
it's not that it felt fine. It was like genuinely concluded.
But, yeah, and what I mean by that as well is like, I just guessed how many damage boxes to put on these. I just guessed how many damage dice to throw, but like, I'm not too sad about the numbers. I was disheartened by that initial, like, your ship getting sunk in 1 round.
Yeah. It was more the sort of, the frigate got took down from untouched by a brig on a boarding action that was a bit like, that feels not
Something's
right.
weird there.
But yeah, if you're boarding into a frigate or being boarded by a frigate, it feels like that is a legitimate thing to be terrifying. That is like, it feels like most ships boarded by a frigate are in serious trouble anyway.
Yeah, and this was a bit of a punt, but I quite like the sailing and shooting deck combo. I think that's quite, the way the initiative system works has got enough like moments in it, which is fun.
I think I would say that you can use shooting cards to pivot, whether you're in irons or not, just because there is a little point there where, but you've both got only shooting cards and you're both unable to like shoot each other, and you go, all right, well, there's 3 cards. There were points there where we were just like, well, I'll just throw these cards away.
The point is good, which is when you've got shooting cards you can't use, is there something cool you can do with them rather than just having a. I mean, it's not the end of the world to just toss them in the bin and be like, oh, okay, right, new turn.
Yeah, it wasn't super significant at that point when we were at different ends, but there was in the sort of mid game, there was a point where I pulled like 2 shooting cards, you know, that didn't do anything. It just felt a bit like, yeah, this is the wrong moment to have the tempo drop.
I suppose the corollary of that is that like there is intended to be a spiciness in that decision about which cards you take, and taking the wrong cards, like, I'm okay that there's a bit of a punishment for that. The question is that punishment that nothing happens and that something should happen instead, but the wrong something should happen?
Yeah, it's, you know...
It could be, you know, the brutalist version is, oh, you can't play your shooting, well, I get to use your shooting card. Or it could be that, like, there's a possibility that powder explodes, or, you know, there's all kinds of things that could happen. I don't know what the right one is.
If you did that, I am only ramming. I'm only ever ramming. I'm not touching that text. Stick it.
That's true. Well, actually, that's another possibility, is that these could be used as riders. So, like, if you've got some spare red cards, you make a move, you're like, I'm going to throw these 2 in for like a plus or minus 1 speed for each card I throw in, or something, which would give me like some flexibility to change what I'm doing, but it's not like...
I mean, that's potentially interesting insofar as a ship that is in irons then...
could then make a move.
Might use red cards. So what red cards are rowing?
Yeah, or like sticking some gas in the tank.
Sure, yeah, running the engine or getting the oars out, and they basically count you as being speed 1.
Well, yeah, because you could use them as plus or minus 1 speed each, and then
get 2 onto
so you could get from in irons up to speed 2. We don't need to get speed 1, actually.
Yeah, you only need speed 1 because you can at least then a hairpin is always going to get you out of irons.
Right, and then you can get from beating into like a medium straight.
Yeah, essentially, if you want.
Yeah, no, that's good. But
I think it's more the sort of in irons save move because.
Well, no, it's also like, you know, if I'm reaching, burning 2 shooting cards to be able to take a 90-degree turn or a hairpin, that's actually that would have been pretty massive.
Yeah, sort of dropping a little bit of an.
So anchor. In that one situation, the -2 is brilliant.
Yeah, sort of.
And actually, even if I'm beating, and actually what I want to do is spin on the spot so I can get a bead on you, like -2 on that, so I'm in irons, and now I'm spinning on the spot. So then you get the spinning on the spot, but it's emergent from the plus or -1.
Yeah, potentially, yeah. So that could be an interesting option.
So it's disappointing that the Rad Pirates of the Toxic Seas, or maybe the Rad Pirates of the Toxic Sands, there's nothing about the Toxic Sands yet. Like all of those ideas about like putting traps down and stuff, like they were cool ideas, haven't had the time to like... They're much more complicated, and also I didn't like the visuals of like this stuff being scattered everywhere.
I think that one of the things that's interesting about the One Box Challenge generally is how many of the games have sort of looked at and gone, that's expandable. This again is one where it's like you could have like a range of ships and forces, you could have the sands doing something, and that could be a whole like...
Yeah, I mean, I'm already thinking like, this is the sand, this is like the Sahara Mediterranean, like there's an Arctic one where you're like going across the ice fields, like there's a sludgy like radioactive sea one where you're like, you know, like giant sort of dirt junk piles and radioactive sludge, and you're going through that. Like the other thing is that this is cool because I'm on like my 15th iteration of an activation system for Junk Space, the like X-Wing spaceship dueling game, and this is the best that I've got to of these kinds of things, so it's quite likely that I'll end up pulling this engine out of here and putting it into Junk Space, because what this is doing is it's giving an X-Wing like kind of movement programming thing with a little bit of spice to it, and because of the way that the cards work, it would be well easy enough to have like detailed modifiers where like as my pilot or captain gains experience, they get a plus or a minus on the initiatives, and now I can, you know, a high card is worth more to me.
I mean, inherently, like there's a million things you can do with deck manipulation, isn't there? It's like you can have a pilot skill where he can look at 2 cards off of the deck and take one of them, where he can pull a card out of the discard pile. You know, maybe he could, you know, trash cards out of the whole thing, then and now nobody can have them.
I think the other thing that's been fun about this challenge is like this sort of setup with 2 identical small forces. This is like how I tend to prototype anyway, and so all it's done is it's sort of said, and don't bother writing any of the like faction or list building thing. Like you just get this. We don't have to worry about that. Like that's the shtick.
Yeah, and for me, I think that's one of the things that's really interesting about it as a design challenge, because one of the things that's an easy temptation, particularly for new designers, is to go like, here's an okay system. Now I'm going to write factions. Oh, the factions are so much fun, and they do all these different things, they synergize. And I like seeing this where it's pushing people to go, the units are kind of basic. Let's get a core system that really sings, because I think that's a better thing to do in design. And once the core system sings, then start mucking about a bit with factions.
100%. You know what? It's just occurred to me. If I put this as a battle report on the Rule of Carnage YouTube channel, it might be the first time you've beaten me on camera, which is weird. Yeah. But it's only right and proper that it be at my own game.
Is that why it won't now turn up as a battle report?
Oh, this is a technical issue. So it's Monday, the 30th of September. This is the actual last day of the One Box Wargame Challenge. I've got a functioning game, and I've released it in a sort of very alpha PDF. But I've got some things that I want to do today to sort of get the thing finished and get it properly released. So I've got my list here. My first thing to do is I need to build some sails for the ships. The ships come with a pack of like canvas sails, but I've got an idea about how to make them way more visually exciting and more post-apocalyptic. So that's the thing I'm going to do first today, and I'll show you what I'm about to do. Once the sails are on, I want to take some nice photos of the ships and the terrain. I might put them against a green screen backdrop and sort of sub in some post-apocalyptic skyline. But those photos will allow me to make the rulebook look really nice, so then I'll probably do a quick layout of it just to make it look a bit tidier. I've got some background and setting introduction stuff that I want to put in. Not very much, but I want to, set the setting. So I need to write that up, and then I'll get it published. Okay, so the Black Seas models come with these sails sheets. These are like pop-out sails which are ready painted and coloured and everything, and you stick onto the model. That would look cool, but it's going to make them look like proper Age of Sail vessels, whereas I want something a little bit more crazy looking and eye-catching. So I've got an idea. These are some lovely beer cans. They're from the Time and Tide Brewery, which is a local Kent brewery. And the guy that does the artwork is a chap called Greg Stobbs. And I had a chance to meet him a couple times recently, and I even showed him how to play Gaslands. We had a game of Gaslands. These are extremely cool, nautical themed, and they've got different colours. So we've got a pink one and a green one. I've also got a sort of black one here with skulls and things. But I think I'm going to go for a kind of yellowy pink set of ships, and then the other three will be this kind of limey green. So what I'm going to need to do is cut these open, cut the lids off, spread them out. There is a sticker on this, but I don't want to take the sticker off. What I want to do is use the metal of the can to create the shape. I've already know exactly what shapes I need, so I'm just going to draw around these. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and get some gloves so I don't cut my finger, get a knife and cut these up. Alright, so I have got the 3 masts lined up with their cool little beer can sails. It was a little bit sticking fingers together, but it looks okay. There's a bit of frosting and stuff, but we can fix that with a bit of paint if it really matters. So I think I'm going to assemble this now with a bit of super glue. Make sure I get the masts in the right place. And there we have it. Wowza. After a whole bunch of cut and razor sharp bits of metal, trying not to cut myself, and sticking my fingers together with super glue, they are all ready and they're looking really cool. I feel like it might be worth giving them some weathering to sort of blend them in. but I'm sort of running out of time, so I'm probably just going to take some photos and get to work on the manuscript.
What if the monster demands a mate be bold? Will if the lottery choose their fate? Tired old. People marry for the dough. Can't be any more harsh. What if the monster goes out at night? Kicks off. Who wins the ambassadorial headlock? Now I'm tired of this job. Tired of smiling like I'm not tired of. Tired people who complain 'cause they can't see. They won't stop being tired, even if we all start a war. What if the monster decides it's lost its touch? What if it outs itself at the next press launch? It's an oversettles down, starts a microbrewery chain. What if the monster starts selling kids cocaine? Rules make show easier, real and jailbait. Now I'm tired of this job. Tired of smiling like I'm not tired of. Tired people who complain because they're lost. All the time fake moral panic stops them from kicking off a war.
So I've taken the photos. I'm just going to show you how I'm going to process them to make them look really nice. I didn't take the photo in a way that was straight with the horizon, so I'm just going to straighten the horizon, duplicate the layer, change this one to be not so on the wonk, and then I need to get rid of the green screen, so I'm going to go select color range, grab the green screen. Now the color of the ship masts is going to be a problem, but that's okay, because I can just go in and use a selection marquee, and I need to remove that part of the selection because I don't want it. So then if I invert the selection, I can just copy and paste just the bit of the image that's there. I'm going to trim it to get rid of the bits that are now missing. Okay, and then I'm going to drop something in the background. So I've got some background images that I generated using Midjourney. Don't tell anyone. This one ended up being pretty good because it's got the same sort of color as the matte that I'm taking photos on. It doesn't look like the same color right now, but it will be when we desaturate it. That's about right, but actually in this case I'd like to flip this one over because the backdrop is messing with the... Yeah, that's all right. We'll do that. In fact, I want to get rid of some of these buildings, so we'll make it a bit bigger. And bring the desert back in. Okay, so it's the wrong sort of saturation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my gradient tool. I'm going to go into quick mask and I'm going to create a gradient there. And then I'm going to use that selection when I come out of quick mask to create a hue and saturation filter. About that much. About that much. Yeah, that's all right. It's kind of trial and error, this. And then I'm going to duplicate this image because actually I'm going to soften the transition by getting my razor. Rub some of this transition out, so the edge isn't so hard. There's a bit of green from the green screen, but I'll deal with that in a minute. This isn't, you know, it's not amazing, but it's just enough to fool the eye for a moment. And then there's a bit green here. So I'm going to select the bits that aren't this sail. So I don't want to desaturate the sail, but I do want to desaturate everything else. Hue and saturation. Go to the greens and then flip them in colour and desaturate them a bit. Then that will take some of that green screen glare out of it and make it look more the colour that it's supposed to be. Cool. So then I think this whole backdrop needs a bit of a colour correction. So hue saturation, let's take some of the saturation out of that. Is that better or worse? It's not as exciting. Maybe I should pump up the saturation of the other bit instead. So instead I will select the pixels from this layer, create a hue and saturation layer here, and pump up the saturation a bit. Kind of blows the image out a bit, but it's alright. The last thing I might do is add a photo filter, just to give it a bit of overall warmth. And there we go, that's how I pop a background in a green screened image. Okay, the other kind of photo I'm going to use are some photographs of the ship miniatures, which are just on a plain white background so that I can pop them into the document and they'll look like they're just sitting inside the composition. I've found the best thing for this process is there's a tool called Object Selection in Photoshop. This tool is magic. There was a part of my career where I spent most of my working day cutting things out in Photoshop, and now there's a tool that does it in just a couple of seconds. So that's cool. So you just press this, it's now got it selected, and then you can copy and paste. And now we've got this. Hasn't got quite all of the shadows. In fact, what I might just do is grab a copy of the other layer, brighten it like this so I've got the shadows, and then use this to splat over the top. This thing actually does need a bit of colour correction. And then I can crop, and that is good to go. I can drop that into the document and flow text around it. And here is the final rulebook, Rad Pirates of the Toxic Sands. It was just laid out in Google Docs. Here's the images that I cut out and flowed the text around. I did take a little time to make a very fun map. This is the setting of the game. I'm imagining a Sahara Mediterranean super desert, which is next to the European exclusion zone. A little bit of Gaslands world building here. This is an area that I haven't explored before. These little icons represent oil derricks that exist today, which I guess at this point are stranded in the middle of the desert. And you've got the different ports that are now desert cities. So we got some fluff to start us off, and then what we need to play, some notes about the One Box Wargame and my design goals. And this is pretty rough and ready photos of the components that I've built and setting up. And then we've got the pirate code, which is the essential rules and how the ship cards work. Here's the round structure. Drawing hands, making plays, and here's the details of first the sailing action with how you determine your speed, the trim sails mechanic that I invented during the playtesting conversation with Glenn, how to move using movement templates, and then some other rules like battle damage, grappling hooks, push away and lashed. Next is the shooting rules, using the shooting template to attack people, with the damage system of tossing dice into the box, and how you check off damage boxes, which is all pretty simple. And then the final thing, and honestly the thing that was the hardest to get working, is the boarding actions. So resolving a boarding action, how you bid, fold and call. And then there are some simple rules for building your flotilla. This is very kind of early doors, because it basically depends on, you just always have your frigate and your two brigs, and then you get an opportunity to refit your ships based on the conversions that you've made. Lots of opportunity for expansion here. I included 3 scenarios in this first rulebook: defend the rig, claim the rig, and the graveyard, where you can salvage things. At the back of the book you've got the ship cards for the frigates, the brigs, and some places to stack your sailing and shooting decks. And here are the templates. These are just normal Gaslands templates, except I've renamed this one Come About. Other than that, they're identical. and the bits that you need to build the wind gauge. You cut these 3 things out and then you connect them together using a banana clip. And that's it! Rad Pirates of the Toxic Sands, post-apocalyptic piracy upon the Mediterranean super desert. This One Box Wargame challenge was extremely fun. Thanks so much to Malev for organising the challenge, coming up with it and then following it through. A big shout out to Glenn Ford, my co-host on the Rule of Carnage podcast, for working indomitably during the process to help in the Discord, getting channels set up and sorting people out. And of course, thanks to everyone that entered the One Box Wargame challenge. It was immense to see a community rising up around this challenge and just creating an enormous variety and number of awesome miniatures games. You can get a copy of Rad Pirates of the Toxic Sand immediately by going over to planetsmashergames.itch.io. If you are a Patreon backer, you get it for free. But how do I become a Patreon backer, you may ask? Well, head on over to patreon.com/planetsmashergames and consider signing up for a monthly tip of the hat to keep gas in the tank and videos like this being made and games like Rad Pirates being made. This is the most gargantuan video that I have attempted to make for YouTube, so if you liked this extended format of content and this deep behind the scenes view, then let me know. Alright, thanks for watching, and until next time, bye bye!